Welcome to our worship service at First Unitarian Society of Ithaca. Here we gather, nurturing our connections, seeking inspiration, and embracing the warmth and light of spring, while finding peace and understanding amid the chaos of today's world. My name is Jeff Dunn, and I'm the Celebration Associate today. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to everyone. Whether you are newcomers or attending a long time, members of the Ithaca community or watching from afar, we are so glad you are here with us today. Please check your email, our Facebook page, and our website for more information about how to create connections. If you'd like to receive weekly updates describing opportunities for engagement, please email the request to office@uuithaca.org. Newcomers are especially invited to visit our website and complete a newcomer form on the homepage so that we can get to know you and you can learn more about us. Our service this morning was pre-recorded, but we look forward to sharing the service broadcast on Sunday morning and seeing you at the live coffee hour afterwards.
Hi, my name is Diana Neer. I am a member of the FUSIT Board of Trustees, and I'm coming to you today to talk about the stewardship campaign for this year. So first of all, I know it's been a really hard year for everybody, and all kinds of reasons for that. And one thing some people feel like is, everything is just so much. Why should I give money? Where are we even going? And I just wanted to say that actually this is one of the times when it is most important to give money, because we realize we're not doing it, because we like the minister, because we like, this sort of thing, because times are good. We do it because we are a community, we are all part of this community, and we want to make this community thrive and grow and be what we want it to be. And that does take money. Stuff isn't free, unfortunately. It'd be really cool if stuff were free, but, So you should have all gotten your pledge cards, and probably a bunch of you got phone calls. So there's a bunch of different ways to pledge. You can return the card you got in the mail. You can email the office assistant. You can call the church. You can go online to our website. You can, I think, pledge through Breeze even. So there's lots of different options. And, this is the time that we need to come together and say, this is who we are, this is who we want to be, and we are willing to work for that. We aren't just going to say, oh, wouldn't it be nice if? We have to reopen the church, the physical church, once, we're given permission and, for health reasons. There's a lot of work to do. The interim search for our new interim minister, new office assistant, kicking programs back into high gear after, this year of social distancing and hard times. And we want to all come together and all contribute what we can, money, time, enthusiasm, whatever you can, because we are all in this together. So thank you very much for all that you guys do, all of you, to make our congregation what it is. Thank you. Oh, P.S. Also, it would be really super helpful if you got your pledge in by the end of April, because that is a huge help in the budgeting process if we have a feel for what we can expect in terms of pledges and income. Thank you. You're awesome.
In this moment, we find ourselves becoming, not only as individuals and a community, but as a nation. This week, there was a collective deep breath taken as we saw a smidgen of justice in the conviction of George Floyd's murderer. a moment of relief and gratitude, and a moment of recommitment to the affirmation that Black lives matter, that there is still so much work to be done. 330 days. That's the number of days it took for a court system to affirm what we already knew, what we already saw, the murder of another Black man at the hands of the state. We know our systems are corrupt. We know that Black and brown people are disproportionately mistreated and killed because of ignorance and fear and racism. Those of us who are white know that we are often complacent in these actions, and we must be silent no more. What a time to be alive. What a time to live in this in-between time where glimpses of hope are present, but the long-haul work for true justice is far from realized or finished. And so we breathe, we push, we take a moment to give thanks, and we continue to move forward, bringing all that we are. So bring it. Bring it all. Bring all of who you are and all of who you've been to this place and this moment. Bring the parts you need to let go of and the parts you need to be reminded you already possess in the life force pulsing through your veins. Bring your shiniest parts and the parts you think no one else wants to see. And let's lay it all down, unburden ourselves, unhunch our shoulders, take a good inventory of the pieces we've carried in. What needs to stay? What needs to go? What needs to be stored away safely? What might benefit another that we no longer need? Wonder, joy, fear, guilt, courage, bring it all to this shared space of belonging as we become together. Whoever you are, whoever you love, wherever you are on your spiritual journey, you are welcome here. Here you belong.
Greetings. We light this chalice for the warmth of love, the light of truth, and the energy of action.
I Good morning, friends. I am always so happy to be with you each Sunday. Our theme this month, Becoming, invites us to think of the future. Who are we becoming as we grow up or grow older? Who are we becoming as Unitarian Universalists? It is normal for human beings to want to control and know their future, and yet we can only control the future so much. Sometimes the answer will be hazy, and we just have to trust. So one of the ways that our faith guides us into being a people of becoming is by telling us, predict the future as best you can, but be open and trust what unfolds. It's time now to open our envelopes marked 425 or April 25th now. What is this thing? This is a paper fortune teller game, and we're going to put it together right now. If you don't have one of these and you'd like to make your own, you can go grab yourself a square piece of paper. First, you're going to unfold it so that it's flat. I know that yours was folded up to fit into the envelope. We're going to turn it over so that the blank side is facing up. First, we're going to fold one corner into the center like this. And then we're going to do the same thing with the opposite corner so that it looks like this. Now, keep going to the other two corners, folding them all in to touch the center so that it looks like this, and we have a square. Everyone has their corners touching in the middle now. So now we're going to flip the paper over so we're looking at this side. Just like we did on the first side, we're going to start by folding those corners into the center. One, and then the one on the opposite side, and then the other two, until we have an even smaller square. It should look like this. So it's going to look like this on one side, and like this on the other side. Now take your paper and fold it in half in one direction, like this. Then unfold it and fold it in half in the other direction, like this. Just one way, and then the other way. So finally, you probably see that there's these little pockets here created by our folds. We're going to take our fingers and we're going to stick them into those pockets like this. The final product is going to look like this. See how my fingers are in here? So when I was a kid, we used to make our own versions of these, and we would fill in the fortunes with all sorts of fun and silly things. But this one has the fortunes filled in for you. The way that these work is you think of a question, and then you're going to pick a number, typically between 1 and 8. You're going to move your fortune teller back and forth that number of times. I'm going to show you what I'm talking about like this. I'm going to pick the number 7. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So now inside you should have 4 numbers showing. Mine shows 7, 8, 3, and 4. So I'm going to pick one of these. I'm going to pick number 3. I'm going to lift that flap up, and under it mine says, accept and allow yourself to flow with life. What questions are you going to ask your fortune teller? It could be specific questions like, should I try out for the school play? Or maybe, will I find my lost shoe? Or it could be big questions like, what will the future bring? Or even just, what is my fortune? When we play with a fortune teller like this, we are thinking about the future. And it's normal for human beings to want to control and know their future. And yet these kinds of items, much like a magic 8-ball, remind us that we only have so much control over what is to come. Sometimes the answer will be hazy, and we just have to trust. Let's take a moment and imagine the future together. Imagine yourself in 5 years. The year will be 2026. How old will you be then? What will be different? Now imagine 10 years from now, the year 2031. How old will you be in 2031? What do you think you will be doing? Next, let's think about 20 years from now. It's 2041. Where will you be? Where do you hope to be? Now imagine when you are 60 or even 80 years old. How much will have changed by then, both for you personally and for the world? We don't know what the future will bring, and we can't control what is to come. What we can do is stay open to the possibilities and continue to work towards building the world we want to see, one with justice and equity, a future free from racism and oppression, a world with clean air and water, where we care for the earth and all of the creatures inhabiting it. What could this world become? What could you become?
Each week in our shared worship service, we have a time and a space to hold our joys and our sorrows together. We lift up the names and circumstances of people and places and events and experiences that have brought us great joy, and also those that have brought us great sadness. This week, I lift up those who are struggling with loss of loved ones, or important life milestones, or health and well-being. And I lift up those who are joyful, celebrating anniversaries and birthdays, births of children, and other exciting moments in their lives. And as we continue well into a year of this pandemic, when so many of us are isolated and alone, I lift up those who are struggling with illness of the body or the mind, those who are struggling to overcome addiction, unsafe home lives. May they be well and safe and cared for. If you're watching this in its live format, I invite you to write your joy or sorrow in the chat box so that others may hold space for you. Each week after our service, we'll have a live Zoom coffee hour, and in that space there will be a person who will hold some space for joys and sorrows, additional joys and sorrows to be shared. And so I invite you to join us for that, to join us for this communal spiritual practice of listening deeply, of offering mutual care. Now, holding in our hearts all of these joys and sorrows that we have spoken aloud to the universe or typed in the chat box, or those which remain silent in our hearts, I invite you into some moments of reflection and prayer. These words are from Enfleshed. To become is a lifelong process. Nothing is constant, not even the self. We evolve in the midst of narratives meant only for some, and ways of being made narrow by fear and power. We must then have the courage to listen to the truth of our own lives, to the wisdom that comes from within, responding without resistance or need to control, but with welcome and curiosity. This is what ensures our becoming is an unfolding of our truest self. This lifelong labor cannot be carried out alone. It requires help from friends and lovers, family, and creaturely companions who bear witness to what makes us come alive and say to us, listen, look, feel, pay attention to that. This is loving and being loved. Telling the stories, sharing in the memories, giving thanks for the relationships, understandings, and experiences past that have shaped us to this day. This is loving and being loved. Celebrating new beginnings that excite, holding risks together, leaning into unknowns with the promises of support and companionship. This is living and loving and being loved. listening to the future calling uniquely to each of us in the midst of all of life's noise, helping one another find our place in the shared labor of collective life, supporting each other in what is the world's ache and what it is asking from us. This is loving and being loved. To say for the first time, this is who I am, this is the truth of my body, this is what I know about myself, this is my name, this is where my path is leading me. And to have it heard, have it received, have it affirmed. And then to say it again and again as we change and as the world changes, and to have each proclamation greeted with an open-armed embrace. This is loving and being loved. There is no me without you. We shape one another. The sacred that birthed us weaves our lives together so that we can only find ourselves through shared becoming. For my journey and all its winding ways. For yours. For all the saints who labored for what is, all the kin whose lives made ours possible, for all those yet to come, for whom living our truths today will mean breaking possibilities open for them tomorrow. We pause. We give thanks. We acknowledge. This is loving and being loved. So may it be.
May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be peaceful and at ease. May I be whole. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be peaceful and at ease. May you be whole. May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be well. May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be well. May we be peaceful and at ease. May we be whole.
Each week, we take an offering to sustain the important ministries and programs of this congregation and its presence in Ithaca. The giving information will appear on your screen in a moment during the offertory music. Giving to the plate is important. It's a symbol of our gratitude for this service and our ongoing commitment to support the work of this church. The first time you give with the text link, it is a longer process. But after the initial information is entered, the following donations are quick and easy. So please take a moment and give through either the text option or the giving button on the homepage of the website. Now, since this is the last Sunday of the month, it is a sharing Sunday, where the whole plate will be shared with St. John's Community Services Shelter and Day Center. Now, St. John's strongly believes that regardless of an individual's circumstance, whether that be economic status, race, religion, age, mental or physical disability, sex, sexual orientation, or identity. The people they serve, their employees, and those they encounter in the communities they serve deserve the right and opportunity to live their best lives. St. John's Community Services are advocates for all. May these gifts bring about connection, inspiration, and engagement within these walls and beyond.
Hello, my name is Roy Murdo, and I'm the director of St. John's Community Services Homeless Shelter at 618 West State Street in Ithaca. And I'd like to thank you very much for the opportunity to share with you the special work that community members like you help us do on a daily basis. I'd like to speak with you specifically about three things that happen at 618 West State Street. We have a shelter. We also have a food pantry and a friendship center. And they all sort of work together in collaboration to provide the services that we provide to people experiencing homelessness in Tompkins County on a daily basis. The shelter is a 20-bed shelter that actually has been reduced to a 10-bed shelter due to COVID. On any given night in Tompkins County, as many as 100 or more people experience homelessness in Tompkins County. So obviously the need for a larger shelter certainly is there. We also have a food pantry. The food pantry is open 7 days a week, 12 hours a day from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Those hours were expanded due to COVID, understanding that the need for food and food insecurity has grown tremendously with the onset of COVID. We also have a friendship center, and the friendship center I like to think of or call the living room for the people experiencing homelessness in Tompkins County. The Friendship Center is a place for people to gather. We don't gather in large numbers as we used to, but we still gather there. It's a place where you can come in out of the cold, get something to eat, take a shower if you need to take a shower, do your laundry. It's actually the mailing address for as many as 250 to 300 people that experience homelessness in Tompkins County. So a lot goes on in the Friendship Center, the food pantry, and the shelter on a daily basis. We rely on friends like you to help us support the most vulnerable men and women and children of the Ithaca community who are experiencing homelessness, and we thank you very much for all that you do. If anyone wants a tour of the shelter, give me a holler, and I'd love to give you a tour. Thank you very much, and take care.
Today we have the joyful occasion of welcoming 2 new members to the congregation at First Unitarian Society of Ithaca. In normal times, in the pre-COVID times, we would do this in the sanctuary and we would be able to do rounds of applause and speak words together. And I know we all miss being able to do that in person, and someday that will happen again. But for today, we want to welcome these new folks to our community with a little ceremony. And so we'll have a chance to share the words that we would share in person and to speak those words aloud to your computer screen or your TV screen, however that works. And we will welcome Jessica and Carolyn to our community officially as full voting members. So part of the reason why we do this ceremony is not only to mark this time in the lives of the folks who are joining our congregation, but also to acknowledge that our congregation is a living and breathing thing. We have people who come and who go and who are born into the community and who die while members of the community, and all everywhere in between. And so this is an acknowledgement of this rite of passage for these 2 folks being officially welcomed into this community. So let's start off with reading the words. Jessica, do you want to start us off?
I enter this faith with hope and possibility in my heart, pledging to participate in and support the ministries of this congregation.
I covenant to remain true to the spirit of love that flows through this congregation and guides me.
And then both of you, can you both speak, "We seek your welcome," that piece?
I seek your welcome as I join you in this faith.
Great. So now the congregation, let's join together with the words that are on your screen. We welcome you as once we were welcomed ourselves. We seek to be open and inclusive, respecting your inherent dignity, your ideas and your vision, in times when it is easy and in times when it is difficult. We seek to be supportive, not only when you reach out in courage to us, but also when you need us to reach out to you. In return, we ask that you recognize our humanity. We will not always live up to our ideals, and when we fall short, we invite you to stay in relationship with us and help us more fully bring alive the spirit of love. We welcome you as an equal member of this congregation, of this faith, and of our shared spiritual journey. As we continue to live into our covenant with one another, we do so with joy, friendship, and hope in our hearts. May we create connections, find inspiration, and engage the world together. So both Jessica and Carolyn are signing letters that will be added to the membership book and are now officially members of the First Unitarian Society of Ithaca. So welcome. Yay! In her book, Becoming, Michelle Obama writes about her experiences as a woman in America, as a Black woman in the United States, as a lawyer, a first lady, a spouse, a mother, a daughter, and the many other identities she holds and has held. And in the epilogue, she reflects on what it means to be all of these things, to hold all of these identities all at once. And she writes, I am now at a new beginning, a new phase of life. For the first time in many years, I am unhooked from any obligation as a political spouse, unencumbered by other people's expectations. I have 2 nearly grown daughters who need me less than they once did. I have a husband who no longer carries the weight of the nation on his shoulders. The responsibilities I've felt to Sasha and Malia, to Barack, to my career and my country, have shifted in ways that allow me to think differently about what comes next. I've had more time to reflect, to simply be myself. At 54, I am still in progress, and I hope that I always will be. For me, becoming isn't about arriving somewhere or achieving a certain aim. I see it instead as forward motion, a means of evolving, a way to reach continuously toward a better self. The journey, she writes, doesn't end. When I think about the many identities that I've held in my lifetime, it's easy to get caught in the moment. What and who am I now? What and who have I been in the past? How have I been shaped by who I've been before? And what remains constant through our lives? And what identities have I carried that didn't seem to matter, but now live at the very, very front of my consciousness? I have been a sister, a daughter, a cousin, a granddaughter, a friend, a student, and a teacher. I am a white, cisgender woman in the United States, and I am queer. I have been an athlete and a musician. I've been an advisor and an advisee. I've been a waitress, a receptionist, a counselor, a shelf stalker, a counselor, a minister, a writer, a tap dancer, an aspiring poet, a Unitarian Universalist, a jaded college student, a dog mom. I am a survivor. I have been a military wife in times when that has been acknowledged and for years in the shadows. I have been closeted and out, strong and afraid, sure and timid, privileged and oppressed. Like most of us, I could name at least 36 identities I hold and have held, some dependent on my actions and behaviors, some dependent on the gifts I was born with, some dependent on the relationship to and with others. And perhaps what is more remarkable is that I have held some of these identities my whole life, and others just for a period of time. Some I've only identified with for a few months or even shorter than that. Like tap dancing, that only lasted a year. Short-lived identity as a tap dancer. Some identities have been thrust upon me by society or other people or the expectations of the world for people who look like me. And as we heard from Michelle Obama in our reading this morning, I am forever becoming. We all are. All of us are in this transformative process of becoming new versions of ourselves, becoming brave enough to let go of what no longer nurtures us, becoming in ways we might never have imagined. All of us are in transition in some way or another. Most of our lives, we are in the process of becoming and transitioning and going forth from one place or identity to another. Most of our lives is spent somehow in the in-between. So little is finite. One of my favorite parts in Michelle Obama's book is when she's exploring this question that we ask children all the time. What do you want to be when you grow up? And she writes, now I think it's one of the most useless questions an adult can ask a child. What do you want to be when you grow up? As if growing up is finite, she writes, as if at some point you become something and that's the end. While most of us can probably say what we wanted to be when we grew up, we can probably admit that most of that was based on what we knew at the time. For some of us, knowing what careers are most lucrative and stable was important. We decided we wanted to do what the people we love do. We wanted to emulate the people we respect and the people our society respects. And so we focused on what the external world wanted us to do, and we worked hard to do and to be it. The expectations were set out, and for many of us, that brought comfort and solace in a world of uncertainty. And I wonder what it might be like if instead we moved into a new way of being. We tuned into ourselves and listened deeply to what we are bringing to the world that is unique and beautiful and necessary in its own way. As the great theologian Howard Thurman once said, don't ask what the world needs, ask what makes you come alive, and go and do it. Because what the world needs is people who have come alive. Or as the poet David Whyte said, you must learn one thing. The world was made to be free in. Give up all other worlds except the one to which you belong. Sometimes it takes darkness and the sweet confinement of your aloneness to learn anything or anyone that does not bring you alive is too small for you. If this is true, if it's true that we must focus on what brings us alive and what makes us come alive, then it must be true that those things will shift and grow and change over time. Our Unitarian Universalist faith tradition is a living tradition. This means that, like each of us, our faith will shift and grow and change over time. Indeed, our shared UU tradition is, like us, becoming each and every day. And this may also mean that our identities within that tradition will shift as well. There may be times when we identify most strongly as a pagan and earth-centered person, or a Christian, resonating with the stories of Judaism or the lessons from the Upanishads or the Quran. There may be times when we identify as an atheist or humanist or agnostic or pantheist. Unfortunately for us, our Unitarian Universalist faith is large enough to hold it all. And we are encouraged to never stop exploring and searching for meaning in this world. We are invited to bring it all. Similarly, we are rooted in a tradition where the foundation has been constant, the affirmation of integrity, reason, wonder, and love. This means that for those of us who have remained committed to a particular belief system, each time we read or chant or hear a scripture verse or a story, we are invited to learn yet another new piece of wisdom within it. Today, we find ourselves during the month of Ramadan, when those among us who observe this season and our Muslim neighbors are fasting and praying and hearing again the wisdom passed from Allah to the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. During Ramadan, there is an additional prayer time each evening where a portion of the Quran is recited and reflected upon. This is done completely from memory by one who has committed the entire writings to memory. This person is known as a hafiz or a hafiza, and they hold the messages and wisdom of the holy writings in their heart. Now, I can imagine that for those who have taken on this role in their communities, there's a sense of calling to this role. I can imagine that there are some who have dreamed of committing the entire Quran to memory since they were young. And I can imagine that some might come to this calling and sense of becoming later in their life. And just as within any holy, prophetic, or inspiring words, I can imagine they learn something new with every recitation, alongside those who are present to hear and to listen and to learn anew with them. As our neighbors in the United Church of Christ denomination say, God is still speaking. This is to say that revelation is not sealed. There is always a continued unfolding of meaning and inspiration and calling and becoming for all of us and for our world. The journey never ends. This is when I am reminded of the spiritual practice of labyrinths, a circular symbol that represents the journeying inward to our center before journeying outward to the world. When I most recently walked a labyrinth with my colleagues, we were invited to place at the center an object that we needed to release. And others were invited to take the object if they felt so moved or needed it in their life going forward. I think we do this time and time and time again in our lives. Lay down what no longer speaks to us or brings out our best selves. And at other times, receiving unexpected gifts that help us find our way back to our center. Perhaps the journeying inward is also us tuning in, listening deeply to what makes us come alive. Perhaps it's the promise to revisit ancient and holy ideas, whether from a religion or those we hold within ourselves, time and time again. Perhaps it is the acknowledgement that we may never stop meandering through these lives we lead, finding twists and turns and new identities to pick up and put down. Perhaps it is all of this, and the realization therein that we do not journey alone, that there are invisible heartstrings inextricably tying us to each other on this messy and wild journey. Indeed, at any given moment, we are all becoming in some way or another. We are each deciding what to carry forward, what to lay down, discerning next steps, the next right thing, the next forward motion pulling us to our future selves. This is what it means to live a life. We each greet endings and beginnings in our own way. We each welcome and usher out these realities alone and in community. We are all ending and beginning and ending and beginning, and so on and so on and so on. And so I leave you with this blessing from John O'Donohue called For a New Beginning. In the out-of-the-way places of the heart, where your thoughts never think to wander, this beginning has been quietly forming, waiting until you were ready to emerge. For a long time it has watched your desire, feeling the emptiness growing inside you, noticing how you willed yourself on, still unable to leave what you had outgrown. It watched you play with the seduction of safety and the gray promises that sameness whispered, heard the waves of turmoil rise and relent, wondered, would you always live like this? Then in delight, when your courage kindled and you stepped out onto new ground, your eyes young again with energy and dream, a path of plenitude opening before you. Though your desire is not yet clear, you can trust the promise of this opening. Unfurl yourself into the grace of beginning that is at one with your life's desire. Awaken your spirit to adventure. Hold nothing back. Learn to find ease in risk. Soon you will be home in a new rhythm, for your soul senses the world that awaits you. May you find what brings you alive, and may you do it. May you be it. May we have the courage to move on, even when it's hard. May we open our hearts and our spirits to the promise of becoming and becoming again and again and again for the entirety of our lives. So may it be. Amen, and blessed be.
Lie beneath thy
As we extinguish our chalices, we do not let go of the hope and courage that they represent. We go forth from this place carrying our sense of wonder and imagination and our yearning for a world made just and loving. We carry our promise to work for justice, our compassion for all, our love and our courage out into this beautiful and broken world. Our service has ended. Let our true service now begin. Go in peace.